t-shirt, which I know does funky things to the camera. Like, you wear stripes that are too close together, it looks like I'm a sort of hologram or something. But that's life, because that's the t-shirt I've got available. So, I'm going to start lying down. Welcome if you're joining for the first time. I welcome you to lie down as well, and definitely always make sure that you're comfortable. I'm on a blanket on a carpet, so comfy. So I'll just say the little spiel before I start for anybody who's joining for the first time. This is a very sort of hybrid practice, my own practice, very Feldenkrais based, but going off in different directions. And one of the sort of main components of the practice is that it's really the most productive, the most useful, you'll get the most out of it if you just do what you want. And that means listening to your body, not pushing, don't think, no pain, no gain. That's a damaging philosophy that we're trying to counter. So yes, sometimes we'll be doing kind of workout feeling stuff and you get muscle burn, and that's okay. But if there's something that just is uncomfortable, or it just doesn't quite feel right, or like anything that's just resists strain, or trying to just do what's easy and efficient for the sake of becoming more and more efficient and having more and more adaptable possibilities for movement. If you push and strain, then you're just learning how to push and strain and reinforcing unhelpful, unproductive habits of movement. So now the lecture's done. Follow along, do whatever you like, whenever you like. Take it as an inspiration to go further if you want to, be more gentle and softer if you want to. Certainly at the beginning I would say everybody following, just really stay minimal with me, because that's what the kind of methodology is to start with. Once I get more bigger and more muscular, then it's up to you if you want to take it much further and train harder, or if you want to keep it at the low level that I'm starting at and just keep it really low key. So I'm starting lying down. I'm switching into speaking in the first person to get on with it. I'm lying with my arms and legs long because that's comfortable for me. I'm just, whatever position I'm lying in, I know that that's position I'm going to come back to as a reference, because I'm going to scan myself here. Scanning my contact with the ground. Trying to learn a little bit about my self-organization today in this moment. How are all the different component parts of me assembled? And what can I sense? Trying to switch into that state of mind where I can just observe without judging, without the need to correct. And the only thing I would do is adjust if I'm uncomfortable. So really my only guide, my principal guide is my own comfort. I feel myself settling into the ground a little bit more able to let go of things as I spend a little bit longer here. Noticing once again, it's been a pattern for me recently, noticing once again I've got quite a big arch under my low back, I've got a little bit better contact at the back of the kind of mid-upper back today, but I don't feel very spread out on the floor. I notice I have a very different quality, a different sensation in my left side and my right side. I feel a sort of, a different sense if I could think all the way down my left side of my face, neck, arm, shoulder, chest and back, belly, pelvis, down the thigh, the knee, the shin to the foot. I have a kind of sense of that side of myself. If I compare that to the sense of myself on the other side, all the way down from the face and head, the neck and shoulder, the chest and upper back, the ribs and belly, and lower back and pelvis, hip, thigh, three-dimensionality of the thigh, the knee, the lower leg, and the ankle, and the foot, heels and toes. So a different sense on my right hand side. But even just having done that little check through myself, taking my attention through myself in a specific, from one part to another, I feel that's connected that side of myself a little bit better than it was before. I'm just going to roll to my side and come to standing. And I want to see what it feels like, first of all, just to stand for a moment. Scanning my body, noticing what it's like to be vertical. And then I want to test, I've got my eyes closed, but I want to test what it feels like just to turn over one shoulder and look behind me in one direction. And actually I'm opening and closing my eyes, just letting myself do what I want. Just at one simple turn over one shoulder, and then comparing that to the other way. Turning to look over the other shoulder. What I'm interested in is my range of movement without any strain, without any push. I'm not trying to do it in a particular way, I'm just seeing what's possible. How can I turn? How far can I see behind me? Any way of doing that is okay, as long as there's no strain. And my left and right are just so different. That's what I'm sensing today. I can turn almost to see how far behind me. When I turn to my right, I can see, pretty much directly behind me. When I turn to look to my left, I just don't know how to get there. It's like I can feel all the different parts of myself going like, what? I'm going to further with my left if I really think about how I could do it, how I could use more of myself in the pattern of action. I can get further without strain if I'm really clever about it. But it's clearly very different. Better, getting a little better. Although my tactics are peculiar. Because unfortunately I know about what is optimal. I know that my tactics are not optimal. So anyway, I'm going to lie down again. I'm going to come to lying on my belly. I just turn my head one way. I rest for a moment with my head turned to that side. I've got my head turned to the right, so I'm going to bring up my right arm in front of me and have my left arm down behind me. And I'm just going to very softly play with taking my heels side to side. So I've got my feet long, my ankles long, so that means the tops of my feet are against the ground. I have not got my toes tucked under. And I'm just taking my heels a little bit side to side and seeing what movement do I have available. Very lightly, very softly, just to take my heels a little one way and the other. And then pause, noticing the difference between my two sides. So when I take the heels side to side, I'm rotating in my hip. So I only need to think about taking the heel side to side, but the hip will move. So I've rested on that side. I'm going to turn my head the other way and change my arms over. And then come back to testing my movement of my heels. So I feel I've got a lot of freedom in one hip and not very much in the other. Just turning my head over the other way again. I'm going to shuffle myself, make myself a little bit more comfortable on the ground. And try again. But no, as I thought, one leg is moving very easily left and right. The other leg, not so easy. And I'm not pushing. I just want to see. So I'm going to start just dragging my feet. I'm looking to my right, so I'm going to start with my right leg. I want to start dragging my toenails towards my knee a little bit. So basically that means that I'm bending at the ankle, pushing the heel a little bit towards the ceiling. And it means that the front of my ankle comes away from the mat. And eventually, if I keep doing that softly and small movement, I kind of come up so that I could tuck my toes under if I wanted to, and then I lengthen them again. And I just do that a few times. I go as if I want to tuck my toes under, and then I lengthen them again. I just notice what that feels like. And then I pause, and I do the other foot. flexing a little at the ankle to drag the toenails towards my knee, lifting the heel towards the ceiling a little bit until I could tuck my toes underneath if I wanted to, and then pushing my foot and toes away again to lengthen the front of the ankle. So I'm kind of pointing and flexing the foot, but whilst dragging my toes and my toenails against the ground. And then I pause. And I come back to the first side, and I just begin to lift my whole foot off the floor. So I kind of drag my toes behind, and then I just start to lift my heel away from the ground, and lift my toes away from the ground, and then I just lay my foot down again. And as I'm doing this, very small, very gentle movement, I'm paying attention to what I can feel in my leg, my hip, the muscles in my pelvis, my back. And I'm trying to find, where do I want to lift my heel, where do I want to lift my foot, so that it's comfortable, as comfortable as possible, it's as least effort as possible. So every time I do it, it's another approximation. And as I do it, I feel my legs starting to kind of jelly a little bit, starting to melt. The tonus, the muscular tonus of my leg is changing. So I'm just playing with what angle do I want to lift the foot. It's so soft. I'm looking for a movement I could do hundreds of times without any strain. And eventually I feel I can bend my knee all the way so that my foot is pointing more or less towards the ceiling. And then I could lower the leg down again all the way. And I can do that a few times. Every time just feeling, where do I want to lift the foot for my leg to feel softest, for it to feel as easy as possible. And then I lower my leg down and I rest. And I take my heels side to side again, and I feel there's a huge difference. Before I could really only move my left and my right didn't want to go anywhere. Now that I've been working with my right leg, I can feel that my right heel can go side to side easily. That means that I'm softer around the right hip joint because that's a rotation of the hip joint. So that's nice. I turn my head over the other way. So that now I'm looking towards my left, and I'm going to just begin the exploration with the left foot. Make myself comfortable. And then start to pick up the left heel away from the ground. And I'm trying to find where do I want to lift the foot. It's a bit tricky for me on this side. And starting to bend the foot all the way up in whatever way I can. And I'm paying attention to my back, keeping everything soft, keeping my jaw soft, keeping my belly soft, keeping my chest soft. Taking my attention around different parts of myself and letting my awareness expand. Until gradually I find a smoother, easier way of lifting this foot away from the floor and up towards the ceiling. And then I rest. And I again explore taking my heels side to side. And I feel now that I can really roll my legs. I can take my heels side to side and I can feel my thighs rolling softly against the ground. I can really enjoy the big thigh muscles softening into the ground. As I let my heels go side to side, I let my thighs roll, and I start to just let my pelvis roll more. And then I'm taking my heels side to side in a smaller, faster movement, so that I start to feel a gentle oscillation passing up from my heels, through my legs, through my thighs. I can feel the flesh on the back of my thighs moving. And I'm going side to side with the heels, and that rolls my thighs and my pelvis. And now I feel my pelvis rolling on the ground. And then I can go a little faster even. Or I can try. I've got to go small movement to go fast. And then I can feel my ribs moving inside my own skin on the floor. I feel my belly and my chest are stuck to the ground. And my ribs are I can feel the ribs and my breastbone sliding inside my own flesh as this little oscillation passes up from my legs to my head. I'm just going to do the same thing, but turn my head back the other way. Rest for a moment, and then come back to this oscillation. Chest melting. And I relax, I rest. I roll to lie on my back. I'm going to see how that feels. I feel like a different person. 2 long legs, longer spine, longer arms, my legs lying closer together, my arms lying closer to my body. Very interesting. I'll roll to my side and come back up to standing and see what it feels like in standing. I turn over one shoulder. A bit easier. Turn over the other shoulder. Good. A little bit more similar. A little bit more rotation available to me. Definitely room for more improvement, but certainly has improved. And I just come back down to the mat, to the blanket. And I'm going to lie back on my... I'm going to lie on my side for a moment. So I'm comfy lying on my side with my head just flopped onto the ground. I've got my underneath arm out in front of me. And I'm just going to start to try and do a tiny circle with my top shoulder. It's so tiny. And I notice I'm not very good at this circle. I can kind of go up and down, but it's going forward less easily, and it's really not wanting to go backwards at all. Just going to lay my top arm alongside my body so that my hand isn't on the floor in front of me. I'm lying as much on my side as possible rather than rolled forwards or back. So I'm really trying to lie as much on my side as possible. My knees are bent up in front of me and I can just relax here. My arm resting on the side of my hip. And I come back to this tiny circle with my shoulder. And I just let this circle do whatever it needs to do in the rest of my body. So as I feel, I've got the circle in my shoulder is so tiny, I'm trying to make it softer and smoother and more circular, more a true circle. And as I'm trying to absolutely relax in the rest of my body just accommodates the circle of the shoulder. I felt my head slide backwards, so my spine sort of realigned itself to drag my head backwards. So that won't be the same for everybody, but I'm just saying it out loud because it's really a very, very fine level of awareness to allow something to happen. Not to make it happen, but not to get in the way of it happening. So my circle becomes more circular. And then I'm just going to roll to rest on my back for a moment in any old position, just to rest. After my head kind of realigned itself, it wasn't quite so comfortable for me to have nothing under my head. So I'm just going to move my arm up and lie on my arm. And I'm lying on my side again, same side, and I'm just coming back to that circle. Lying on the underneath arm. circling the top shoulder with the top arm lying on the hip. And as my shoulder circle gets bigger, it's implicating a little bit more of my spine. So my head is kind of being rolled around. My head rolls off my arm backwards. I'm doing whatever I want, whatever I need with my arm, just to help me circle. And I start to feel that if I want my circle to go further down, if I want my shoulder to go further down, I'm going to need to pick my head up off the floor. So I start to just let the circle become bigger and roll me, this nice rolling backwards of the shoulder that opens the chest, and then a rolling down and forwards so I can lay my head down again. And then I just roll to lie on my back. I feel a really different contact in the back of my right shoulder than my left. For anyone watching, this is me doing some very careful work to try and free up the top, kind of like C7, T1, the top thoracic vertebra, maybe T1, T2, T3, that whole kind of like top few thoracic vertebra from the base of the neck down to the beginning of the back, right at the top. Up here, and it really gets blocked with tension, with daily habit, and particularly, anything repetitive. We use our arms a lot, so a lot of effort goes through there. We use our head a lot, so a lot of effort goes through there. There's a kind of junction, the base of the neck, at the beginning of the thoracic spine. You can kind of like steer somebody from there. You could like grab somebody by the nape of the neck and steer them from there. So it's like a real juncture of force. A lot of force goes through there. It's like a meeting point for the cross section of the arms, the head and the spine. And if that gets blocked, which it just always does, life is harder. So I'm just trying to make life a bit easier by freeing up this section of the spine. I'm lying on my second side now, and I'm coming to these tiny little circles of my shoulder. I notice on this side that I have started by circling my shoulder the other way, which is interesting. On the other side, I didn't even think about it. I just circled my shoulder backwards, and that was the way I wanted to. On this side, I'm circling my shoulder forwards. And my circle is definitely totally off to the side. So again, like I'm going up quite well, I'm going forwards really well, down kind of, back, not really at all. So this shoulder, with my arm at least flopped on the floor where it is at the moment, is not really much of a circle. It's tiny, kind of top corner of a circle. So again, I'll bring that arm down to the side of my body, and I'm going to circle the shoulder back now, forwards, up, back, and down. And that back and down is where I feel I need to just so carefully soften, and I can feel it's really like high up in my chest where I could soften more and get more movement there. And again, my head has just realigned itself. going to use my hand on this side to help me. So my hand is resting on the side of my pelvis. And I'm just going to use the contact, my soft contact of my hand on the side of my pelvis to make a soft circle. I can feel the side of my hip, the side of my hip bone. And I'm just softly circling my hand around. My elbow is not locked straight, but I'm also not letting my elbow just completely bend and detach at the elbow. So what I'm doing is using this soft circle of my hand on my own pelvis to help me circle my own shoulder. And at this stage my head is still so passive. I'm trying to really relax in the neck. Really difficult while I'm talking. Oh, but I can feel this soft rearranging of my chest, which pulls my spine after it. The spine obviously connects to the head. I don't feel the need to lie on my arm on this side, but anybody that needs to could. I'm just going to roll to rest lazily on my back for a moment. And then I'm coming back to lie on my side again. Maybe I will test out what it's like to lie on my arm. And I'm starting to circle my shoulder again. And I keep it really, really small so that I can feel, even though it's so much smoother, it's still not much of a circle, to be honest. And it's really that transition from going up to going back that feels most challenging for me. And my head's just rolled back off my arm. So as I make this circle bigger, I'm just going to allow it to get a little bit bigger. I want to still keep it so soft. But as I start to make it bigger, I roll back a bit more and my shoulder goes back. I don't roll back intentionally, I just roll my shoulder back and that's what happens. To reach my arm further away, I have to lift my head away from the ground. And I keep going with this soft, working this soft circle. Softening everywhere I can, but particularly taking attention to what's happening at that junction, that juncture of force at the base of my neck and the top of my back. And I just roll to lie on my back and rest. And now I have a different contact to the back of my left shoulder as well, that's nice. And bend my knees and stand my feet. Let's see how that feels. And I'm going to come up to standing one more time. See how I feel. Turn to look one way, turn to look the other way. I just want to move my feet, like turn around. Just let myself do that. So I like look over the shoulder and then keep actually going, turning my feet to try and keep looking behind me further. So I'm just turning in a little circle one way, and turning the other way, leading with turning my head and my shoulders and chest turn, and then I just turn my legs, and then I go the other way, unwinding, turning to look the other way. Head is going. Reach my arms around a little bit so I can feel that my arms help me turn. Kind of like slow motion chasing a tail, like a dog chasing its tail. And I pause, keep my feet still, turn as far as I can, and unwind again. So for me there's an interesting moment. What I want to play with is there's this interesting moment where I turn as far as I can with my feet still, and then I just let myself turn my feet. I move my feet and I keep going. And as I keep going, I kind of reach my arms around a little bit as if I want to go further with my arms. I play with different things in my chest. I soften my belly. I'm just trying to go behind me, like I'm trying to reach something behind me. I can play with my arms going in different places. Now the interesting moment is when I stop again and I bring my feet to stillness and I just keep going in the same direction and discover a few more millimeters before I unwind. So nice. I go the other way. So again, I'm turning as far as I can with my head and shoulders and chest, but with my feet still on the floor. And then I want to keep going further to see behind me, so I just turn my feet. I just let my feet turn. This turns into this kind of dog chasing its tail thing. So I'm looking over my left shoulder. I reach my arms around to kind of help me go. As I'm going, I can change where I'm looking. I can look up or down. I can change the way my arms are reaching. So I'm not doing a kind of pure rotation. I'm doing like some spirals in my chest. My belly can go. I can spiral around in my arms. All sorts of different things are possible in my ribs, in my back. All the time I'm trying to turn over my left shoulder and stay soft. And look for more possibility in the softness. And then again, the really interesting bit is when I then stop turning with my feet and keep reaching my arms and turning softly. Before I unwind. I'm going to just gently take one shoulder back and then the other, one shoulder back and then the other, in this soft swinging of the arms. My knees are bent. So anybody with any kind of any sort of creative movement practice, anybody with dance or circus or theatre training or anything will be very familiar with this movement. Maybe people with a slightly more softer or functional kind of gym training maybe do these swinging the arms. So maybe it feels like a habitual movement, so I want to just make sure that I'm not doing it as if I know what I'm going to get out of it. I'm not doing it with any preconceptions. All I'm doing is thinking, well, I was turning over one shoulder and I was turning over the other shoulder, and now there's this kind of counter turn as I let my ribs turn. And my shoulders are just swinging on my ribs. And I can play with different posture. I could do it very, very upright. I could do it kind of slouching. I could drop my head. I want to do it very softly, softly, softly. My knees aren't staying completely still and my pelvis isn't staying completely still. But I've got quite a nice spread out contact of the soles of the feet with the ground, so that I'm able to just feel sort of stable through the feet. I'm not twisting my knees. My knees are actually going forwards one at a time. So just break that down a little bit. One knee goes forwards and the other knee goes back. One knee goes forwards and the other knee goes back. So my pelvis is turning. I'm not trying to keep my pelvis still, but my knees aren't swinging side to side. That's important. Oh, just stand for a moment and start again. So it begins with just this little turn, maybe from the waist, so that one shoulder can go back and then the other shoulder can go back. And I'm actually adding in this little kind of roll of the shoulder back. And I'm trying to keep my head free. I can actually hear these little kind of crackly things going on in the back of my neck. And I'm just trying to keep my shoulders free, keep my chest as soft as possible. My jaw as soft as possible, so that I can play with different alignments. I'll open up my chest a little bit, open up the front of my hips a little bit. It's got to be so soft because I'm doing it in a back bend. So soft. And not much rotation going on here, but maybe as I start to soften out of the back bend, I start to come back. And I feel my crown of the head going towards the ceiling. And I feel much more movement in my ribs again. And I look down, I'm going to keep going. Now my head is kind of going side to side. I want to just be gentle. For me, there's a lot of lengthening. I'm just going to slow it down and feel what that's like. Because it's really in slow motion, because I'm feeling a really deep stretch up each side of the spine, right up to the skull. I bend my knees a little bit. I'm just doing this kind of almost like zombie-like swinging of my arms around my knees. And gradually I rebuild my verticality. When my head is hanging, I really feel this stretching out the back of my neck, so I don't want to go too deeply into it. I'm just keeping it soft. And then again, I find my vertical. And I'm going to start to use my arms a little bit more. Make sure I've got space around me. So I'm now reaching behind me one way and then the other. It's the same movement. It's the same movement through the whole knees, helping me turn my chest. But I'm adding in this reaching through the arms, like I'm gathering space. So actually the going there, this is interesting to remember. The going into a turn is very soft, but the coming back can be so powerful. So I go softly in and then vroom, back, vroom, back, vroom, vroom, relax. Relax. So I could try that. I'm softening my spine, different alignments of the spine, rounding. All the time it's like my ribs bring my arm back. This is like a bear. You really cuff somebody like this. This is like really good, like martial arts. So you get this strength on the way back. Lengthen through the fingers, and then I just let it go, softer, softer, softer. Let my arms go. Have a little wriggle. See how I'm standing. Turn one way. Hooray! Finally I can turn. Turn the other way. Turn one way. Turn the other way. Still room for improvement, but it's more even. Just going to come to lying on my belly again. Sorry, on my back. Noticing how I'm lying now on my back. Isn't that nice? And I'm just going to spend my last kind of 5 minutes or so exploring twisting and turning, now that I've got that potential. So I might keep it really soft, or I might work a little bit harder in places, but my priority today is to try and just keep this area soft. So if I ever feel like I'm undoing the good work I've just done, then I'm going to stop. So I might not get much kind of muscular training today. Well, that's not true, I've done loads, it's all muscular training, but I might not get much like strength work. I'm going to start by lying on my belly again. Just like I was before. Take my heels side to side. Feel how that is. That's really available to me now, this kind of jiggle up through the pelvis, through the spine. So bend both knees, and I just take my legs side to side, and I let them go quite far as it's comfortable. So I'm now getting rotation through my spine from the pelvis up. And obviously my head is turned one way, so I've got to think about that in terms of how far do my feet want to go in each direction. I can feel my thighs rolling against the ground as my feet go side to side. I just turn my head and arm the other way and keep going. And now as I keep going, I bring my feet and my ankles together and they don't slide against each other, so that means that rather than my knees just rocking side to side, one knee actually picks up off the floor and then the other knee picks up off the floor. I turn my head the other way again and keep going. Getting nice, soft twisting through the spine from the pelvis up by using my legs as a lever to turn my body. And I'm just going to allow this to take me into rolls and twists. And I'm just going to try to keep soft and not prescribing what's happening. So I've rolled onto my side and I'm twisting open. I think anybody following will struggle to follow exactly what I'm doing. So really all the thing to play with is how can I twist? Different ways of rolling, twisting and untwisting. Rolling by the belly. Anything goes, twisting and sitting. I did loads of glute work yesterday, now I'm so tight in my hips. If I had another hour of this practice, I would move on to hip work. But spine takes priority. Moving, twisting, any way that I want. Still just playing. I'm playing with continuous movement, so what I'm not doing is finding a kind of spiral twist and then staying in it. Instead, I'm just trying to keep soft movement going through my spine, inviting twisting in different ways. soft. Sneaking in loads of little hip mobilizations as I go. And I feel that really actually my head is doing a lot of the, like head and shoulders are doing a lot of the power, a lot of the kind of impetus. So that I'm very aware that everything is kind of following the head. Opening and closing the chest, twisting one way, twisting the other way. I'm going to lie on my back and just finish reaching in a little crisscross, just to feel my abdominals working a little bit more. Crisscrossing my limbs one way and the other. Support my head to keep my chest soft. Really very sort of sea creature. I'm going to speed it up and come into slightly more kind of classic little crisscross. Elbow on the outside of the opposite knee. How can I keep my neck soft, my jaw soft, and my heel? Opening up one side of my body as I twist, drawing my belly in. Breathing as I feel this abdominal work. Soft chest, can I just keep folding in the chest? Lengthening my legs away, really feeling my belly working now. A little faster. Feeling my back on the ground, belly power, and I just collapse. Roll onto my belly. I look around like a baby, opening up my belly, lie on my back again. See how I feel. A little bit more alive than I was an hour ago, that's for sure. Praise be for the body that keeps me alive. Come up to standing. See how I feel. Little twist to see one way. Oh, that's nice. Little twist to see the other way. Good. Little walk around. I mean, I say walk, but I'm actually kind of springing around like an idiot. Bouncing on my heels. But finally got a bit of energy.